Hey guys, I feel bad always cutting off the conversations, but we'll be back after Ericka for more conversations. But I'm happy to have Ericka here. She's, as I mentioned, Ericka is the project director of civil legal system modernization at Pew. I've known Ericka for a long time, and I think she's one of the most wonderfully pragmatic people working in the justice innovation. And she'll be talking about Pew's interest in the civil legal system and how they approach funding innovation in that space. So thanks a lot, Ericka.
So how am I intellectual now with that kind of intro? Hi, everybody. I'm Ericka Rickard. I'm here to talk about civil legal system modernization, which is part of the Pew Charitable Trust's government performance initiative. We at the Pew Charitable Trust, here, I'm going to get this started in a better way. Look at fact-based solutions to a whole host of different issue areas, including criminal justice and public safety, and environment and health, consumer protection. And the area that I focus on is the civil legal system, and more specifically, civil courts. So our initiative focuses on how can we make the most change, looking at the court system as the locus of that change. And I think where that came from is a lot of what Nicole described at the outset is kind of the challenges that we see with the civil legal system, and then what that means for opportunity. So the challenge is both kind of the breadth and the depth, right? So we did a survey in 2018 that found that about half of all US households had a civil legal issue that could have wound up in court, whether that's family, housing, debt collection. And that really confirms the research that we've seen before from Legal Services Corporation and Becky Sandifer and others. And those issues, really, when we're talking about civil legal issues, they are the barriers to economic mobility, they're barriers to housing stability. And so we're kind of understanding both the magnitude of the civil legal problems that exist around the country, but then what I think is the most important is that it's also a system that's ripe for change, right? This is an area where there are real opportunities for innovation and reform. And that's where we're trying to bring that fact-based lens and identifying what kind of promising innovations are already starting, so that then we can replicate them or bring them to scale. The way that we're approaching the work at Pew is looking at kind of three different categories of reform. So we're looking at policy, process, and technology, and thinking specifically about technology as kind of a lever for reforming processes, reforming the status quo in how courts operate, and in how state and local policy actually affects the lived experience of people who are trying to navigate legal issues in court. I'm going to give just a couple of examples. We have a pretty wide spectrum of investments in technology innovation. Some of them are as seemingly narrow as improving search engine discoverability of court and other self-help websites, which turns out is actually a very necessary and more complicated solution than a lot of folks at first thought when they were starting down that road. All the way through to the kind of more heavy user-focused self-help technology tools, automated and kind of combining human service and technology service for people who are trying to navigate everything from domestic violence restraining orders to petitioning for guardianships to responding to eviction cases or debt collection cases. So these are areas where we're partnering with legal services organizations, with court systems, local or state court systems, and then with people who can provide the technology solutions that can be implemented. So that's kind of some of the portfolio of technology innovations that we're looking at, but we really do try to combine them with getting a deeper understanding of what the policy and process underpinnings are of technology innovations. So in addition to the technology piece, one of the things that got brought up a few times is knowing what's actually happening. So this is, I think, not the end user facing technology, but really the technology infrastructure and data infrastructure that underlies how courts actually do their work. So we're working right now with Georgetown on creating a civil justice data commons, a place where we can combine court data with other data sets from other sources. But this is just one of several efforts to really get at this kind of siloed, destandardized, fragmented data that is how courts know what they're doing and how other people know what courts are doing, both to understand what's happening today and then also to measure the success of the different kinds of innovations and reform efforts that we're championing and investing in. Hopefully, once we're able to continue down that road of actually opening up court data, standardizing court data, and being able to do that kind of apples to apples comparison that Felicity was talking about earlier, we can start to actually measure interventions and measure the success of those interventions. And this idea of like creating performance measures and identifying the return on investment, something that a lot of funders care about. What we're starting with is, how do we want to measure that kind of success? So we're building some performance measures right now that expand on what currently exists and trying to create our own kind of definition of what's realistic to be able to actually measure when a court or another civil legal system actor is implementing some kind of major change. And I think this kind of speaks to where we're coming from. We're coming from the system change approach. I think we're trying to identify how we can also expand the tent of funders, of corporate funders, of philanthropic funders, government funders. Some focus on the specific kind of issue-based problems, right? Whether that's housing or consumer protection or child welfare. Others might prioritize specific solutions, whether that's civil legal aid or the technology solutions that a lot of us are talking about today. We're coming at it from thinking about like reforming the court system, but there's a lot of opportunity for overlap and intersection. So really eager to respond to questions, engage in some more dialogue around where those opportunities for intersection really are. But it's a little bit about where we're coming from and where we're going next.
All right, we're good. Thanks so much, Eric. I appreciate you sharing all of that information about the awesome work you guys are doing. So we have one last break here, and then we come back at 2:40 for some Q&A with the speakers that are still kicking around. And we'll see you then. Thanks a lot, Erica.